So, I guess we're gonna start here with this Donald Trump, whatever this is, tweet, truth, whatever, Truth Social thing that he has posted about his recent talk with Vladimir Putin. I am afraid I have to inform you that the thing that many people said would happen happened, that a lot of the people that are basically native to this region of the world have been saying that the United States and Western allies broadly have left Eastern Europe to rot in the name of peace. It might happen again. We certainly hope it will not happen again. But all indicators, all signs seem to point in the direction of actually it'll happen again. Okay? It happened after World War One to some degree. It will happen. It happened after World War Two, definitely, when the entirety of Eastern Europe was just put under the so-called Soviet sphere, and it'll happen now because fundamentally the West does not care about this part of the world if it doesn't need to, if there's nothing of substance to be gained, which supposedly the United States had, or rather Donald J. Trump has seen some gain to be seen from supporting Ukraine if it gives it 500 billion worth of rare earth, which is basically the United States saying, well, if you want us to keep our part of the bargain from the Budapest Memorandum, then you better pay. It's gonna cost us. Our protection slash support is going to cost you. And it's going to cost you a lot because, as I've read in the article yesterday, we don't know what will happen. Maybe Ukraine will exist as an independent country. Well, maybe Ukraine will be Russian in the future, and then we'll just look stupid for supporting Ukraine. So we have to get out of Ukraine as much as we possibly can in an event that Ukraine becomes Russian in the future, so that we don't look stupid for supporting it. So that has been the situation up till now, basically. And now the situation has slightly changed, to say the least. We have received this little summary of the discussion between Putin and Trump, and also a few more other statements. So let's start with this, because this whole thing in itself is quite interesting to me. I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, which I don't even know what a highly productive phone call means in this context. Because to me, a highly productive phone call would be establishing a strong position for Ukraine for negotiation, would be saying that the United States will take a much stronger stance as an ally and will support Ukraine much more adamantly than Putin would expect. But I guess that is not the productivity that Donald Trump had in mind when he wrote this. Let us keep in mind that Donald Trump does not really care about Ukraine. He does not care about any of this. All he cares about is him being in charge of a country that is strong, that can just bully others to doing what it wants. Might makes right. International law doesn't matter. We've already seen that in the way the ICC has been sanctioned by any sort of international treaties don't really matter as well, since he's been tearing them up. The treaties that he himself signed, he's been ignoring them or just ending them on a whim. So international obligations and treaties don't really matter. Soft power, I guess, doesn't matter for the United States, since USA has been responsible. He just does not care. He does not care about, especially about the obligations such as the Budapest Memorandum. He does not care about the importance of Ukraine in the region when it comes to Europe and more broadly the world. Those are things that he does not really take into consideration when making decisions. We discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, and various other subjects. We both reflected on the great history of our nations, which, again, Vladimir Putin knows a distorted, or rather, sells a distorted form of history. And to be frank, I don't even know if Donald Trump knows any of American history. So I'm not sure how this reflecting on the great history of both nations looked like in practice. And the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people and we likewise lost so many, which already is a testament to what I said about Trump not knowing anything about history, anything about what happened, anything about, I guess, World War II as well as this war. First of all, it wasn't Russia, it was the USSR. Second of all, a lot of the people that died were Ukrainian and Belarusian, proportionally to the entirety of population. A lot more Ukrainian people and Belarusian people died than Russian people in World War II, and a lot of Ukrainian people were in the Red Army fighting against the Nazis. So this whole argument is just ridiculous. And also, it made me laugh a bit when Trump wrote here, Russia lost tens of millions of people, and we likewise lost so many. When we take into consideration that um the USSR lost over 20 million people, I believe, and the United States had lost a little bit over 400,000 total in World War II. So, like the disproportion, the language of likewise we lost so many, it feels kind of comical to me. But it just demonstrates once again that Donald Trump does not really care to know any of his own country's history. And of course, Russia lost. Russia lost tens of millions. Like completely ignoring that the realities of which groups actually lost the biggest amount of people. Okay? Those are those realities. Let's continue. Because this is just. And we're gonna see that it's just gonna. I'm not just nitpicking a little bit of a silly text. This all builds up to the fact that Ukraine is in fact being more evidently backstabbed by the West, by United States right now primarily, but we already know, or at least I already know, that the West collectively, as in the European Union, is actually no better, not much better when it comes to tangible support. Billions and billions of Russian peoples have died in World War II, so many beautiful young soldiers have lost on both sides. Germany also. Trump is talking about World War II. No, he said likewise we Americans have lost so many. Okay, let us continue. We each talked about the strengths of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. So, I'm sorry, this just reads to me as sooner or later we will return to business as usual and we will be just buddies. We will be just two strong bullies on the world stage that will not care about international world order, will not care about any sort of semblance of international law. We just won't care about anything. We'll be strong. We'll be able to bully others. But you know what? Since we're both strong, we'll sort of have this begrudging respect for one another. So we'll be cool. We will be cool at the expense of countries like Ukraine, of course. But first, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia/Ukraine. Okay, what does this statement mean? What do you mean? Okay, this sentence structure just doesn't make sense. We need to stop the millions of deaths. I have no clue where the millions of deaths even came from. No estimation of casualties, even if you combined Russian and Ukrainian deaths together, will not come to millions. Okay, it just won't. So let's put that to rest. Let's put that to bed. Like as much as this war is the biggest war since World War II, it's not as big as World War II. People make this mistake, and I guess Donald J. Trump decided to ape this mistake here. Just because this is in fact the biggest war in Europe since World War II, it does not follow that the scale of this war is as big as World War II. Okay? So no, there are no millions upon millions of people dying in this war with Russia slash Ukraine, which I have no clue what that even means. It should be war of Russia against Ukraine or whatever, not war with Russia slash Ukraine. I'm not sure what the implication is here. President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto of common sense, which I'm not sure why Trump is so proud about the fact that Putin joined him in this brainless slogan of common sense, which can mean anything you want at all times. You can insert anything into common sense and just say, oh, we need to kill all the people in this village. We need to shoot them in the head. Why? Well, it's common sense, of course. Common sense is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. So, of course, Putin would give him that phrase, which made which made Trump very, very happy with himself. His campaign motto, his strong campaign motto, common sense. We both believe very strongly in it, which means that you don't believe in nothing because common sense does not have a tangible, specific meaning. It can mean anything you want, basically. We agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations. I'm not even sure if that's true. Or the same amount of munitions have been used. Like you had thousands upon thousands of planes used in World War II. Okay, let's see. Visiting each other's nations, that's great. That's meaningless again. We also have agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something which I will be doing right now. I have asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of the CIA John Ratcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Ambassador and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to lead the negotiations, which I feel strongly will be successful. You see, I know it might be confusing, but you should watch second episode of Smiling Friends Season 2. It's called Mr. President, and I don't know how, but they've predicted everything. I'm not sure if I haven't seen... God. I'm not sure if I haven't seen it, actually. Ironically enough, in Ukraine as well. I'm not sure if I actually have not seen this episode in Ukraine. Was it about them helping some guy win a campaign? Oh god, I don't even remember. Even though, technically speaking, I've watched it fairly recently. Alright. Blah 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 blah, which I feel strongly will be successful. Millions of people have died in a war that would not have happened if I were president, which is a lie on both accounts. Millions of people have not died. The war has been already happening during his first term, but he did nothing about it. Thank you. It was a smaller scale war, still a war. But it did happen, so it must end. Wow. So it's such a deep statement, I don't even know what to say to it. No more lives should be lost. I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort. Yeah, because Putin has been famously always putting so much effort into stabilizing things and respecting Ukraine's borders, sovereignty, independence, what have you, self-determination of Ukrainian people. Yeah, that's President Putin's effort, of course. With respect to this call, and for the release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House, I believe this effort will lead to a successful conclusion, hopefully soon. Of course, the question is, what does a successful conclusion mean? And what it means for Ukraine? What it means for Russia? What it means for the United States? What it means for Europe? Because it seems like those successful conclusion scenarios do not align among those parties. Okay? I would expect that the successful conclusion for Russia will be completely different than that of Ukraine. But for some time, I naively thought that for the US, a successful conclusion will be the same successful conclusion as for Ukraine. But it seems like that's not really the case anymore. And that's not even X, that's Truth Social. That's not even X. So yeah, that's not even true anymore. So